everybody, it's Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News, and I'm very pleased to have with us today Jason Ellis of 3Park. Jason, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we're here live at the SummitX Conference 2024, beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona, sponsored by iQmetrix. Jason, you're not only an expert on telecom retail, you have been telecom retail. You've actually lived it, slept it, and ate it, and so on.
That's right. Yeah, I grew up, my first real business was in telecom retail. 18 or 19 years, I had 1,300 retail stores in the mobile space, and then also had a chain called Simply Mac in the Apple retailer space. So I've been in and around retail for 20 or so years.
Your big message here was what this week?
Yeah, the big message was around, does retail matter? And the idea there is getting back to some of the principles that make retail great. And in telecom retail specifically, there are some gaps, and we're identifying those gaps and just trying to figure out a better path forward.
So let's talk about that. We were talking about in our discussion here before the podcast, and it will seem very familiar to a lot of our TR readers who have industries outside of retail. I think the word is relevance. You can kind of buy, everyone has options these days to buy almost anything, anywhere. There's lots of places to go online and so on. It seems to me you were saying, hey guys, you need to keep that store relevant. You need to give me a reason to come in.
That's right. And you need to make it easy. I think there's a respect for time and convenience that should be at the forefront of technology. And, this is one of those really unique spaces where I have a utility that I use every day in my phone, and how I get service from my local store is largely variable.
So part of it is old-fashioned hospitality. I know you, I know what you want, I appreciate the past business, stick with me kind of stuff.
There's an element, absolutely, to just personalizing the service, making it more community focused. There's also a technical component. I find it incredibly challenging to start a journey online, to potentially buy an iPhone 16 Pro and just go pick it up at the store that's closest to my house. Through most of the telcos that I've researched, it's difficult to do that.
Right.
I found it very difficult to just set an appointment at a store.
And so you were, and I want you to bring up the contrast. There's another company that's almost anywhere you go.
Yeah.
And what just tell me about
Great
that.
Clips is the one that I joke about when I shouldn't. Obviously, they've done a nice job, but for a $15 haircut, I can get in the queue at my home. It will tell me what the wait time is when I go. I don't have any of that visibility on a much more significant purchase. So these are kind of shallow opportunities that I think exist that would improve the experience. Show me what inventory you have online. Let me know if I could set an appointment at the store. Make sure the transaction is efficient, and we can talk about personalization as well.
And let's build on that, because it seems to me what you'd also just told me is, because everyone's had this experience with almost everything else. You go visit the website, and they kind of encourage you to open up an account, and they kind of see if they very gently, have you bought from us before? And maybe, so what's happening is they're trying to figure out, who is this person? Do we have a connection with them?
I think so, but it's hard to make excuses. If I call my airline of choice from my mobile phone number, they immediately know who I am.
Right.
And they also know how long I've been with them, what level of flyer I potentially am with them. So the technology exists. I think it's kind of ironic, if you will, that if I'm using my mobile device to start a mobile journey with my mobile company, they don't know who I am.
So let's talk about that, because I have a feeling this is one of those practical moments, so-called.
Yeah.
So it's one thing for a Delta or United or American, which are massive companies, but are you telling me that a relatively medium-sized company with maybe 50 or 60 stores or something like that, can they apply those technologies too?
They can apply some of them, but I think this is where the industry gets challenged, because there's two two people leading the dance. So depending on the distribution model, you have independent retailers who likely carry the brand of their large telco provider, but the large telco provider leads the digital strategy. So somebody's leading digitally, somebody's leading locally, and they don't always speak well. The technical systems don't speak well.
Now, Jason, I want to bring into this because it's a focus and I think a passion of yours, technology and health, and how maybe this is a good thing to talk about, and it's also maybe a positive thing for the retail world.
That's right. I mean, for me, I really believe that there's an opportunity for us to rethink how the wireless retail experience works inside of a retail store. I think it starts with connecting to the consumer and really putting the consumer first, not trying to sell things to the consumer that are good for us, which I think is often the case. Like, here's where I make the most margin, or here's a new subscription that I would like for this customer to buy. It's more thinking about when that customer comes in, what are the problems they might have, and what solutions do I have to solve those problems. And that's a different way to think about your product mix. It's a different way to think about where your associates spend their time. It's not immediately gratifying, but it hopefully will build loyalty over time.
Now, you had said some things that, in a sense, were kind of radical. For example, although, I just bought the beautiful latest Apple phone, and it's snowing outside, and I'm worried I'm going to drop the thing in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Right? So this so-called captive audience, of course I'm going to buy something.
Yeah.
Your suggestion was what?
My suggestion is to make sure that if you're selling something at a price point, that price point can be justified. And it's either justified through the quality of the product or the experience. But what is not justified is selling a cheap product for a really high price just because somebody's in your retail store. I think when that happens, consumers will choose to buy elsewhere instead of coming back into the store over time. And that's why Amazon's mobile accessory business is growing tremendously.
So your idea here, based on your own retail experience as a merchant, is I bought the phone. Hey, but I like these guys. I that was a reasonable price for a great product. I think I'll go back and see what else they've got. Is that what you're thinking?
I think that's it. Or you might be introducing a problem that you can tell me more about that's harder to do at a digital outlet like Amazon. So I use examples of things like blue light protection or EMF. I'm looking at categories that are significantly growing on Amazon, but where retailers would have a significant advantage if they actually told that story and didn't have the customer just searching SKUs on Amazon.
So, it sounds like in this industry, a lot of the profit is also selling add-on services, home security, and so forth. Is there a connection between success there and what you're discussing? I like coming here. I kind of trust the people there and are comfortable.
Yeah, and I think that weaves to me back to the technical path, which is an ideal interaction for me when I buy my new iPhone would be for you to understand a little more about me, to introduce product sets. If I'm a heavy user, maybe have a few products that you could introduce to me that are around my mobile device. Maybe don't try to sell me home security in that moment, but invite me back for an appointment and set the appointment and know what the appointment is for, and then potentially give me an incentive to come back. But let's not try to do it all in that first session.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Now then, that sounds like when you talk about that, those types of things are always driven by so-called metrics.
Yeah.
Right. You have told the people in your store, there's achievement metrics and so on. Is it possible to set them in such a way that they're actually incentivized to, so to speak, do the right thing?
I hope so. And I think the question we have to ask ourselves is if we don't take a path like this, what does it look like in 3 to 5 years?
Right. Well, then let's stay with the staff issue. You also said you've got some interesting ideas about staffing.
Yeah.
Opposed to not moving folks around and that type of thing.
That's right. I mean, I think that if you want to create a personalized, like, communal feel, we need to keep same employees in the same stores so they can get to know the local community. I know turnover is high in retail, so you end up with, if it's a new face every time I walk in, that's a challenge. Understaffing is a challenge. Overstaffing is a challenge. There's some great products. There's one here today called Shift Lab. Really interesting staffing tool that, marries your traffic with your store trends and helps you figure out how to put the right people in the right places at the right time.
Any other suggestions for people, and including also, feel free. You've done so many entrepreneurial things for folks that are not running a telecom establishment, but it sounds like you have a lot of interesting ideas on keeping things relevant.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, I feel like we talk about digital versus omni-channel versus retail. I think for most consumers at this point, it's just commerce. They just want to buy something. They're going to buy whatever path is the most convenient for them. I don't know that retail in general is looked at it that way yet, but I believe that commerce is just commerce to a consumer. I also think that everyone's been manufacturing margin instead of just really thinking about how to solve a customer problem, make it a great experience, and put a little more time and effort into that.
So, Jason, we're at the iQmetrix conference. The point of sale technology and data that they facilitate, is there information there that the retailers can use to actually build some of the services you're talking about?
There are, yeah, and I think these folks at iQmetrix do an exceptional job. I use their products for probably 20 years. Every single interaction, selling literally millions and millions of devices. There's a treasure trove of data there. Now, for somebody to understand the journey for where that data should go, how it interacts with the customer, there's several bolt-on products that they have through their partner ecosystem, but it really takes somebody to have a vision of how to connect those things inside of every individual company, and make sure that obviously they follow compliance, they stay within their partner guidelines, but they also service their customer.
We hear that so many places in technology. There's this incredibly good data. It's a gold mine, literally, but it's not been mined.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Jason, this has been a real pleasure. It's been very educational for me. I hope it's been interesting for all of our readers and listeners. Where can they learn more about 3Park and yourself?
Yeah, thanks. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so I put the work that I'm doing on 3park.com. That's the number 3, PARK.com, which is largely a telecom advisory practice around the issues that we talked about today and several others. And then I've got a new venture called Matter Brands, so feel free to take a look at matterbrands.com as well.
Well, I hope everyone does. Thank you very much, and I hope to do this again real soon.
All right, thank you.